Hello there, one and all, and thank you very much for tuning in to episode 601 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, live on YouTube as always, but I think also not just on YouTube today. I've got to see if something else might be working. I know this is an Ask Me Anything video, but I'm being a little bit sneaky and using you as guinea pigs. So if the technology is working, then folks, we are multi-streaming today. We're streaming not just to YouTube, but also to Instagram and LinkedIn. We will get to some Ask Me Anything questions in a moment. But as I say, because this is a little bit of a technological experiment, I need to see if various bits and pieces of the tech are working. Okay, so one thing that seems to be happening at the moment is that comments are not coming through to me where they should be, which is very, very annoying. Why is that not working? Ooh, that's really, really, really going to bug me. Okay, I can look at the comments in a different way. So we have a comment. First comment went to Alex, who said, "Hello, everyone, and congratulations, Mr. P, on episode 600. To celebrate this occasion, I'm wearing vintage opium, a bottle from 1984. Gosh, that must smell out of this world. And it's still divine." Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations, says Yvette. Dushan is here as well, saying hello. Omar says, "First question, how are you?" I'm fine. Why? Is that the first question? You've done the first question, so ask me anything. Brilliant. Xavier says, hello. Perfume by the Sea says, afternoon scent of the day is Apom by Francis Kirkshaw. Frank Chytown says, hello all. Congrats, Mr. P. Thank you very, very much. Shahika says, hello and good evening. Hello, everyone, and congrats, Mr. P, on this milestone, says Andrea. Thank you. Xdalia says, I have a question. At what age did you see your first Madonna concert? Oh, shall we get straight into that then? How old was I when I saw my first Madonna concert? Oh, that's very sneaky, though, because if I tell you how old I was and you work out... I wasn't a teenager. I was in my... Yeah, I was in my 20s. Yes, I will tell you that much. I was in my 20s. But I will tell you what it was. I saw the Drowned World tour. Now, folks, hang on with the questions because I'm going to miss some of them. First of all, I should say what I didn't really get a chance to say in episode 600 because we were interviewing. Or I was interviewed, well, we were all interviewing Patricia de Nicolai, and I thought I'm not going to sort of spend tons and tons of time and waste time on thank yous when her time with us was very, very limited. I hope you enjoyed that interview, by the way. But now that we have got a little bit more time to ourselves, every single opportunity that I get to say thank you to all of you, I want to take, even if it means saying lots and lots of thank yous to you every single month, because seriously, there is absolutely no way at all. I mean, it's such a cliche to say this, but some things become cliches because actually they're true. There is absolutely no way whatsoever that I would have made it to episode 600. I mean, I wouldn't have made it to episode 100 if it weren't for you. I had to look up when I broadcast the first episode, and I was a little bit shocked. I mean, I knew that I've been doing this for more than 5 years because I knew that I was doing it. I started it before the pandemic. But when I saw the date, when I scrolled back and I saw that it was April 2017, and the very first one, if any of you remember, the very first ones were on Facebook. And I used to do a combination of Facebook and YouTube. And yeah, I can't quite believe where the time has gone. I mean, it's ridiculous. It doesn't seem possible. But seriously, thank you very much for always keeping me on my toes, for being so knowledgeable, for pointing me in the direction of existing brands. There are so many times that I've gone and sought out discovery sets or samples because you've recommended brands to me. And let's be honest, sometimes a Saturday comes around or a Sunday comes around and there are so many other things that I need to juggle, and life is throwing all sorts of things my way, as it does at all of us. I think, oh my goodness, can I really do a video today? But I have never, ever, ever, not once regretted getting all the gear together, setting up all the tech and everything, and joining you, because you always lift my spirits. You always make me think of something that I haven't thought about before, and doing all of this with you is just great. And I hope we'll be able to carry on, until episode 700 and 800 and 1,000. So I will get to your questions, I promise you, because this is an Ask Me Anything video after all. For the benefit of those of you watching live, I will say that I'm also planning another video after this one. So it's going to be a bit of a long session, which is why I'm starting at 4:30 UK time. Please don't feel obliged to stick around for the whole thing. The second one is going to be the annual festive list. So you can always come back and watch that one later. But as I said, I also wanted to take the chance to investigate the tech stuff. So if you wouldn't mind just bearing with me, I was assured that I would be able to see YouTube comments on this particular screen, and it's very, very annoying that I can't. Oh, and I see that the Instagram stream is working and I can't see the Instagram comments either. So that's really helpful. Okay, well, I will only be able to pay attention to comments from one stream, folks. So I think that this is if you're watching on Instagram, thank you very much, but you will see that this is not a portrait Instagram, a portrait orientation video. It's optimized for YouTube, and it will remain optimized for YouTube for the foreseeable future, in the hope that maybe some of you Instagrammers will come over to YouTube. And this is a pain. This is a pain, because I thought I would have all comments showing, but I don't for some reason. Okay, we will worry about that later. So let me bring up my YouTube comments. Okay, and some people have sent some questions in advance, which is very, very kind. What have folks been saying here on YouTube? Ralph Jenkins says, congrats on 600, not far off that 30k mark either. I know, I would really, really love it if we could get to 30,000 subscribers before the end of the year. Spread the word, try and get people to come and subscribe. Scent of the day is Immortel Cos. So far, so good. Oh, so fall, so good, says Dave NYC. The first Madonna concert one I've already answered. Congratulations, and so happy to be here. Congratulations, says Ferriner. Ula says, oh my God, I have to share. I just bought a Shiseido Féminité du Bois. Cannot wait for it to arrive. As in like one of the originals in that sort of curvaceous bottle. I daren't even ask how much you paid for that. Okay, gosh. What perfume? Let's do this question then. Xavier, what perfume do you regret buying the most? There's probably been quite a few that I've regretted buying, but what do I regret buying the most? This is when I always feel for my interview subjects, because I think, gosh, putting them on the putting them on the spot as I do, because they really don't know the questions in advance, and so you can tell I'm just stalling for time here. I'm trying to think, what have I regretted buying the most? Maybe that's something that's going to have to come back to me. I mean, I don't really do very many blind buys, and I certainly haven't done blind buys lately. I did go through a phase of blind buys. I'll tell you what, this is it is a genuine answer to your question, sort of. I bought Caron's Yataghan many, many years ago, and I didn't get on with it. And so at the time, I really regretted buying it, because I thought, this isn't for me. And then I gave it away. And I just kept thinking, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And then, as some of you may know, if you watched a video that I did last year, I think, I managed to find an old bottle of it in Italy, and I grabbed it. And that one is beautiful. So that's a kind of regret for buying that turned into a regret for giving away, which had a happy ending in the end. Copper Sulfate says, what is your favorite flower to smell in real life? Lily of the Valley. I love these questions. Why do you want to know that? Lily of the Valley, and I love beautiful scented roses as well, but Lily of the Valley. I'm going to bring the... Oh, I've seen another question that's very, very easy to answer. Elena says, hello, which is your favorite Guerlain perfume? Abbey Rouge. Abbey Rouge for me, Chalemar for Madame Persolaise. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the comments. So if I've missed your question, please feel free to repost it. I'm just going to take a sneaky peek to see what's happening on Instagram. Well, lots of people supposedly joining, but maybe if you're watching on Instagram, try and come over to YouTube. It's much nicer on YouTube, trust me. Anyway, I got this question from Yvette on the YouTube chat. I loved this question because I thought, wow, talk about keeping me on my toes. Okay, I'm bringing the question up here. What did Yvette say? Where's that question gone? Where's that question gone? Come on. I've got it here on the tablet. Okay, so Yvette said, probably too long a question, and if it's too personal, I apologize in advance. By the way, please let me know if the audio is coming through okay, because I've got no way of checking that. In the BBC documentary, the BBC Perfume documentary, which I think is from 2010, produced, directed by Ian Denyer, in the BBC Perfume documentary, towards the end of the first or second episode, it's the second episode, there is a lovely elderly lady interviewed. She's discussing her wedding fragrance from, I think, the 1940s, if memory serves, and she's clearly being interviewed in as in my, home. I'd know those curtains and that dresser anywhere. Who is she? And what is the perfume she's talking about? I was so touched by that question, and also a little bit spooked, because I thought, wow, gosh, people have got such, eagle eyes. Yes, you're absolutely right. Those of you who remember the Love at First Scent setup prior to this one, and we've only had this setup for about a year, haven't we? Will know the curtains that Yvette is talking about. Those curtains have now gone. That's another room of the house. In the end, Madame Persolaise decided that she wanted her guest room back, and so I had to kind of come up with this alternative arrangement, which I quite like. I think this has worked well. But the curtains have gone. We've redecorated. It was time that we did. That lady was none other than my mother-in-law, Madame Persolaise's mum, sadly no longer with us. And it was funny how all of that came about. It was the very, very early days of Persolaise, and through base notes, I got to know of this BBC director who was looking for people to appear in this BBC documentary that he was making. So I put myself forward. I think he interviewed me talking about Fahrenheit, and I think with my objective hat on, had I been the director of his series, I would have done exactly what he did, and I would have cut myself out of it as well, because I think what I contributed to his interview would have been very, very, very out of sync with the rest of the episode. It was quite technical and geeky, and I absolutely think he made the right decision cutting me out. Although my hand picking up a bottle remains in that episode. Anyway, while we were sort of exchanging emails and he was talking about when he might interview me, he also asked if I knew somebody who was elderly that might want to appear in it, because he got these two younger women. And I said, yes, I have just the person. My mother-in-law, she'll be great on camera. And she was. And the perfume that she is talking about is Soir de Paris, or Evening in Paris, from Bourgeois, composed, of course, by Ernest Beau. She did love that perfume. I mean, she hadn't worn it for years and years and years, but she was attached to the memory of it. I think that documentary still pops up on like BBC World every now and then. And yes, it is episode 2. That's the episode also where the world got to hear of Quentin Biche for the first time. I mean, it was a kind of odd episode to watch for me. So yes, thank you very much for that question, Yvette. That was a really, really nice question to receive. Okay, Copper Sulfate says, thank you, Mr. Persolaise. I want to know because I get into perfume through gardening, growing things like honeysuckle and jasmine. Oh, this is the flower. Sadly, now I'm not into floral perfumes anymore because most perfumes, and I bet you ran out of character. I think I know what you were going to say, that most perfumes don't really reflect the scent of flowers very well. Tubazaki Pour says, Do you see and feel a connection between loving gardening and loving perfumes? I have recently discovered there is. Very simple answer to your question. No, because I don't love gardening. I definitely don't love gardening. And I'm not terribly good at it. I mean, I do very, very basic cutting the grass and pruning the roses. We do have some beautiful roses, but no, I don't know. But I do love cooking. So maybe that's my cross-sensory thing. Maybe you either have to love cooking or gardening or some kind of creative pursuit. I'm not sure. Ixabi says, keep the questions coming, by the way, folks. Ixabi says, I should see how we're doing for time. Okay. What do you think of corporates taking over traditional perfume houses, such as Estee Lauder taking over Frederic Malle? What do I think of it? This question comes up every now and then. I don't think that, per se, there is anything particularly wrong with it. And I also think, per se, there isn't anything particularly right with it. Obviously, it entirely depends on what the corporate brand does with the perfume house that it's purchased. So, you know, as a thing, it is devoid of the sort of either being good or bad. It isn't absolutely good or bad on its own. However, history teaches us that things don't always go particularly well. Frederic Malle came up in one of the questions that somebody asked, I think on Instagram, or maybe it was on YouTube, I can't remember. I actually thought, I mean, when Estee Lauder bought Frederic Malle, it was obvious that some changes would occur. I mean, there was no way that they were going to just, you know, buy a brand like that and carry on as normal. If things were going to carry on as they were, then Frederic Malle wouldn't have sold. But I thought, okay, this is going to be interesting because I do think that Estee Lauder had done a good job with Tom Ford, although the Tom Ford brand wasn't a brand that they'd bought. Okay, the fragrance Tom Ford brand was a brand that they had created. But Le Labo, they were doing okay things with. Kilian, I was never that enamored with anyway, even before it was bought. So I guess I wasn't particularly interested in what they were doing with Kilian. And for a while, I think, things were all right at Frederic Malle. Reading between the lines, maybe it was when Malle himself was quite actively involved. I really, really worry about what's going to happen with Malle now. Now, at least one of you got in touch to say that things seem as though they're being very, very quiet at Malle. I mean, they are. We haven't had a Frederic Malle release this year, and I don't think we're going to get one before the end of the year. But what's doubly worrying about that is that, as far as I know, we were meant to have had one this year. I'm getting a little bit paranoid because somebody please just, if you don't mind, just tell me if the audio is coming through okay. And I'm just going to see what's happening on Instagram. It's just people joining, nobody really saying very much. That's all right. If you're watching on Instagram, come over to YouTube. Audio is okay, says Alvaro. Okay. Thank you very much. And I suppose it's okay for me to say, because when Frederic Malle told me this, he didn't tell me that it's off the record or anything, and I was kind of officially interviewing him. The last time I saw Frederic Malle, and I wonder if it's actually going to turn out to be the last time I ever see him, was at an event in London to mark the launch of the legacy versions of some of the Estee Lauder scents. I've written about them. There's a whole article on my Substack. There's the interview with Frederic Malle is there on the Substack as well. And I asked him whether the rumours were true that we were going to be getting the Dries van Noten Frederic Malle scent back. And he just kind of gave me this look as though to say, how do you know about that? But there were lots and lots of rumours swirling around about that at the time, if you remember. And he looked at me and he said, yes, it is true. And I said, oh gosh, that's brilliant. I said, is it going to be exactly the same? And he said, well, we've been forced to change a few little things here and there, but it will be very, very recognizable. And it's going to be coming out soon. And I said, how soon is soon? Are we talking like 12 months? And he actually said, oh, no, within the next 6 months. And that didn't happen. And it was actually before those 6 months were up that he left. Make of that what you will. I have also since heard that somebody has been hired at Lauder to sort of oversee the creative direction, or effectively be the creative director at Frederic Malle. That person may not have, may no longer have that role, because I think things change very, very quickly at Estee Lauder, and this information is a bit old now. But apparently, this person said that they reckoned that the Frederic Malle range needed a bit of clarification and streamlining because it was a little bit all over the place. So make of that what you will as well. This is why I keep saying to people, if you have some favorite Frederic Malles, stock up. Stock up now. I'd love to know what you think of all of this, so that this can be a little bit of a two-way exchange. Hey Noah says, a lot of the original creators aren't at their brands anymore, like Malle, Le Labo, Byredo, Aesop. Yes, absolutely. Dave NYC says, I bet Estee Lauder doesn't know exactly what to do with Malle. They just, the comment's about to slip away. They just acquire, but I question if there's a vision beyond profits, of course. Alvaro says, oh, hang on, that's about something else. Should we stock up on Frederic Malle, says Xabi? Yeah, I've just answered that. Offenglick says, I have 9 mils of a 2019 batch Dries van Noten I'm using very sparingly. Yeah, I have an original bottle as well. I love that perfume. Gichung says, afraid of the first 2000 Frederic Malle first ones, the less famous ones like Parfum de Thérèse, Fleur de Cassis being discontinued. Yeah, well, I think they were starting to be pulled back already anyway. I trust any Frederic Malle, says Offenlicht, that was still being produced while he was at the brand, but who knows what will happen now. Let's move on. Andrea says, what's a guilty pleasure fragrance that you love, even though you keep telling yourself you shouldn't? That's come up before. I love people asking about guilty pleasures, and I think what I said before is that I don't really have guilty pleasures when it comes to perfume. I mean, how on earth could a perfume pleasure be a guilty pleasure? For goodness sake, if we can't enjoy perfume without guilt, then what can we enjoy without guilt? So I don't, but I suppose I know what you mean. I guess you're talking about something that's very, very, very simple, very, very cheap and cheerful. I don't know. If I enjoy a perfume, then I enjoy a perfume. I genuinely don't know. I think I'm just going to refute this idea of a guilty pleasure. Exdalia says, sorry for spamming. You're not spamming. You need to do it because I may miss the comment. But are there any celebrity fragrances you enjoy? Ooh. Now that's a bit of the market that I'm not overly familiar with, I don't think. What counts as a celebrity for? You know what I'm going to say, actually. I did genuinely think that Madonna's Truth or Dare, for a mainstream, very, very affordable tuberose, I didn't think it was all that bad. Some of the Elizabeth Taylor ones, some of the original Elizabeth Taylor ones were good. But no, I generally don't go for those sorts of ones. I've just come back to this other bit of my screen here to see why on earth I'm not getting... This is really, really frustrating, because if I'm not getting the comments here, then that means that I'm not going to be able to use this platform after all. So we will investigate. We will come back to see. I'll have to maybe send a message to the help people. Okay. Oriana, don't know if anyone has asked this already, but what is your fondest scent memory that is not a perfume? Fondest scent memory that is not a perfume. I guess it's going to be something foodie related, isn't it? Probably. But is that too much of a cop-out as well? I'll tell you what. I mean, it isn't a perfume, but is very, very closely related to perfume. I have got such a strong vision, such a strong memory of being at a little florist kiosk in Warsaw, at the intersection of Gagarina Street and Czerniakowska Street, and smelling some sweet peas. And I think I must have been, either 6 or 7 at the time, possibly younger, maybe younger actually, but, no older than 7. And just thinking, what on earth is this? How come I haven't smelt these flowers before? How come nobody's told me about these flowers before? And since then, I've loved sweet peas. I mean, I love sweet peas too. They would be up there among some of my favorite flowers. Yeah, so maybe that one. Hey Noah says, I hear Michelle Pfeiffer's brand, Henry Rose, is amazing and not one that many think is a celebrity perfume brand. Ooh, I have got a lot of time for Michelle Pfeiffer. If she has created a perfume brand, actually, it must be amazing. It must be amazing. And it must be so much better than Gwyneth's. I should try them. But isn't it a wellness type brand thing? I don't know. I wonder if I could smell it somewhere. Meme, is it Meme says, do you prefer the Coco Mademoiselle or Chanel Gabrielle line? Oh, I think Coco Mademoiselle, actually. I think Coco Mademoiselle is an underrated scent critically. I mean, commercially, it's not underrated because it's been a huge success for Chanel, of course. Ixabi says, what do you think of Francis Kurkdjian's streak at Dior? I was talking about this with somebody the other day, and it's difficult not to feel disappointed, isn't it? Has he done anything at Dior yet that is truly, genuinely, out and out interesting? I'm not sure that he has. Some of the collection privée scents that he's done have kind of been all right, but nothing that I've been tempted to wear for myself. Dior have just recently released solid perfume versions of 2 versions of J'adore. So like J'adore EDP and I think J'adore L'Or. Beautiful presentation, and I mean, typically slick, gorgeous LVMH presentation, and the solid perfume thing has got like some gold glitter in it, so that when you put the perfume on your skin, you get some glitter on there as well. But I smelt it, and I just thought, this has really also highlighted what's happened with J'adore. And I mention it because I would imagine that Francis Kurkdjian must have had something to do with the actual fragrance that went into those solid perfumes. And J'adore was beautiful. I mean, J'adore went downhill way before Captain Kirk's time. I mean, it was during François Demachy's time that it went downhill. Original J'adore was beautiful. J'adore l'Absolu was really something else. At the moment we're having one endless variation of Sauvage after another. Apparently there was a new version of Miss Dior that came out the other day, and I haven't even smelt it. So I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for the big success. I'm waiting for the big gesture. He's probably doing somewhat more interesting things for his own brand. Tom B says, thoughts on Diptyque 34 as though I feel as though it's hugely underrated. Oh, you mean like their signature scent? I do like it, but I don't remember it well enough to be able to comment on it. So not sure. We're not sure. Meme says, do you think the annual or even biannual flanker releasing of many of the designer fragrances is a sign of the downgrade of the whole industry? In some ways, maybe. I think it's mostly a sign, though, of the corporate capitalist beast just needing to be fed. So many times if you speak to people off the record in the industry, they will say that it would be amazing if the whole industry just agreed en masse to not release anything for 9 or 12 months. But it's not going to happen, because you are never going to get a consensus. You are never going to get a situation where all of the brands will say, okay, we're halting production for 12 months. Sam7S says, what are your thoughts on the original Comme des Garçons by Mark Buxton from 1994? I'm not sure I ever smelt it. I would love to. Offenlich says, which version of Chanel No. 19 is your most favorite? Do you like Poudre? I interviewed Poudre. Yes, I said Poudre. How are you doing? I reviewed Poudre when it came out. I do quite like Poudre. I think my favorite is probably the Extrait. Probably. Thank goodness Chanel is still making it. I should take some questions that had been sent in before. This was interesting. This was on Instagram from Aristocrat, who says, your top 10 list, has it changed? If so, what is the list now? And I actually thought, I can't remember exactly everything that's on the list. I mean, obviously I could remember a few things because that hasn't changed. So I thought, let me look at the list. Okay, so are you ready for this? This was the list as of March 2020, so it's more than 5 years old now. Guerlain Ambi Rouge, still definitely on there. Chanel Antaeus, still on there. Original Dior Homme, and I thought, I wonder if that would still be on there. État Libre d'Orange Tom of Finland, not sure yet. Amouage Goldman, definitely still on there. Guerlain Après Landais, definitely still on there. Montal's Oud Cuir d'Arabie, Chanel's Cuir de Russie, Swiss Arabian's Mukhallat Malaki, and Tower's Lone Star Memories. And that's the one that's definitely on there. So 5 would still definitely be on there. And I think even when I did the video, I may have said something like, look, I am 100% convinced that these are going to be 5 like for the rest of my life, and the other 5 might change around. So I'm not going to overthink it now. Do you think I need to do the list again? I mean, I just feel like it's going to be too much about me. Maybe I need to wait for for the 10-year anniversary of that. I did that list I see here when Persolaise was 10 years old. So maybe I need to wait for it to be 20 years old. But anyway, I wonder, what's this? Alex says, did you hear the rumor that Guerlain is going to discontinue Jiki? What is happening? No, I haven't heard that. I would take that with a massive pinch of salt. Anyway, so instead of the État Libre, I mean, what are the things that have really, really struck me? So, okay, for example, something like, although that's not available anymore, but something like Ferragamo's Testa di Moro by Fabrice Pellegrin. I love that. I absolutely adore that. That, of course, originally came out, I think, as Incense Suede. Had that been around, if it was still around, I would definitely consider putting it in my top 10. What other things have I really, really fallen for in a big way? I mean, that is the big one. In recent years, that is the big one. It's hard, isn't it? I think probably Cuir de Russie would still be on there because I do love that. And each time I smell it, I think, gosh, that needs to go on there. Maybe Frederic Malle's The Night. I mean, this list was done, in 2020. So The Night was already around. But maybe Frederic Malle's The Night. I love that as well. So yes, the list has changed, but I've told you the 5 that would definitely be on there. So you've got the top 5. Musa says, do you think many great perfumes from small brands get overlooked, yet many times a lesser perfume from a big brand gets a lot of love just due to hype, the fact that it's from a big brand, etc.? I mean, in a word, yes, but doesn't that apply to most things? I mean, you could say that about movies, you could say that about restaurants, you could say that about clothing brands. I mean, hype rules, advertising rules. We would like to think that eventually quality will rise up to the top, will surface up, but I'm sure that doesn't happen all the time. It happens in literature. So yes, but I guess the way we fight it, it's like, I very often echo, I think, the words of Mark Kermode, one of my favorite film critics, when he says that even though he's a very, very influential critic, if there's a massively hyped film out there and he doesn't much like it and gives it a scathing review, that is probably not going to have much of an effect on that film's performance at the box office. However, where his influence can have a positive effect is on that smaller film that doesn't have much of an advertising budget or a publicity budget, that not many people are going to see because perhaps it's not being distributed to lots of cinemas. But if somebody like Kermode endorses it and gives it a thumbs up, then people might seek it out. Now, I am not saying for one second that I have anywhere near the amount of influence as somebody like Kermode, but I do think, and to some extent I know, because I hear it from brands and I hear it from your feedback as well, that anything that I say is not going to affect the sales of Bleu de Chanel, YSL Libre, YSL L'Homme, Dior Sauvage. But if I mention a brand like Les Indemodables, like Ostens a few years ago, like Hiram Green, like Nila Vermeer. There are so many times where people have said to me and said, thank goodness you mentioned that brand because I love their work. And so I guess that's what we can do to try and to try and fight the empty hype is what I was going to say. Let's look at another question that was sent in before. This one I can answer straight away. Interesting question, but I thought, why is my answer to this question no? And this is from Anija, who says, have you ever looked at a painting and instantly matched it up with a perfume or vice versa? No, but I guess I'm not a painting person. I may have done that sometimes with films. Well, in fact, we know that I've done it with films because I did a sort of sub-range of posts on Persolaise.com a while ago called Cinema Scent, where I talked about the sort of relationship between cinema and smells, but no, not with painting. What else have people sent in? This was interesting. This was from Frag Chi-Town, a non-perfume question for you, which was brought to mind as I finished reading Crime and Punishment for the third time. Which book have you reread the most? And a request, if you have enough juniper forward fragrances in your collection, would you please consider doing a top 10 on that note? Love and appreciate your content. Congrats on 600. Thank you very much. Simple answer to the juniper one is no, I probably don't. But that would be an interesting one to do. Anyway, one thing, I've never even read Crime and Punishment, so that's really, really bad. I should read Crime and Punishment. The book that I have reread the most is probably, not that I've counted, but it's probably Ishiguro's Remains of the Day. And I think I've probably read that 4 or 5 times. A, because I love it and enjoy it, but also because I've studied it in terms of just studying his style and studying how he writes. I've also read Never Let Me Go 3 times, I think. But I'm not a huge rereader, just probably because of time. Because if I'm faced with the possibility of reading a book that I haven't read before or rereading one, I think, oh goodness, well, time is finite. Let's read something new. I used to be more of a I'll tell you what I would like to reread. I would love to reread 1984. I think it would be interesting to reread that now. I would love to reread some of my favorite Edith Whartons. Actually, that's another one. I read House of Mirth several times because I did it at A level, but I've read Age of Innocence 2 or 3 times, even though I didn't do that. And I would love to read Age of Innocence and House of Mirth again. And maybe some of the Column to Beans I'd love to read. It would be interesting to go back to Brooklyn, having read the sequel. It would be interesting to read reread Nora Webster. I'm looking at some of my books here. Most of the time, and maybe one day I would like to reread Arctic Summer by Damon Galgut. Passage to India, I've read a couple of times. Forster's Passage to India. So yes, a few. I'd love to know what you folks read. Alex, if you had a time machine, which perfume would you buy in its original formulation? Oh, that's an easy one for me to say. Dior's Durissimo. And if I could get the Extrait, if possible, if I'm allowed to, Alex, I would use my time machine twice. I would go back to the time of the original Extrait formulation, and then I would also go to the time, which I guess must have been the 80s, when they did the Esprit de Parfum, and I would get that as well. Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. And Hey Noah says The God of Small Things is one of my favorite books. I've read it many times. I've never read it. See, I've never read that one either. Rachel, hello, Rachel. Now, has your name not popped up here for a while? Hope you've been well. Question: which of your videos and lives of the past 6 months should I go watch immediately? As finally I am. I hope you're all right. So as I am finally Finally getting free time back. Oh, I see. Oh well, I hope everything's been all right. Which of my videos? Ooh, I don't know. The interview with Patricia de Nicolai was quite good, I thought. Folks, you tell Rachel. I don't know. We had fun with the Halloween video. If you want to see some pictures of me looking very, very silly. I can't remember off the top of my head. Somebody else can help you, but I'm glad you're well. Perfumuse said, if I said I'm taking a pilgrimage to Grasse, what would you recommend I do while I'm there? Okay, Grasse is not the most attractive town in France. It has to be said. I think go to the museum. The museum, last time I was there, which was maybe only 4 years ago, I think it needs a bit of TLC. It needs a bit of attention. But what is there is quite interesting. The most frustrating thing about that museum, and this is rather ironic for a perfume museum, is that there isn't enough to smell. I don't know why the brands couldn't have got together, or in association with the Osmotek, to do things like, here's original Shalimar for you to smell, here's original Mitsuko, here's original Chanel No. 5, here's original Coty Chypre, etc., etc. But you come away from there thinking, I needed to be able to smell more. But there are things in it that are very, very interesting. There's a beautiful sort of display of lots of classic bottles, and actually seeing the plants is interesting. Seeing some of the flora and the fauna that's used in perfumery is interesting. But yes, I mean, do you want to bother with all of those make your own perfume experiences at places like Molinar and Fragonard if they still do that? I mean, they're a bit of a laugh. They're good fun. But Grasse itself as a town is not particularly interesting. Alex says, do you know Edith Wharton's ghost stories? They're brilliant. I think I may have read a few, actually. But I love those. I love those classic novels of hers. Gichunk says, sorry for the spam, but I'm curious. You're not spamming. It's because I'm missing them, right? What's your favorite Duchaufour? Yesterday at St. Celia Popper, I smelled Echal, but still in love with Ashoka. Oh, the new Nila Vermeer is so good, isn't it? My favorite Duchaufour. Okay, the first one that popped into my head was Comme des Garçons Avignon, which is probably the greatest incense composition of all time. But I have a lot of favorite Duchaufour. So that would be up there. His Trahi for Nila Vermeer would be up there. Timbuktu for L'Artisan Parfumeur would be up there. I mean, he is brilliant. He is brilliant. But maybe those are like my top 3 Duchaufours. Ashoka as well. Meme says, what's your opinion on the 2008 Chloe? I remember you saying some flankers of it are the forgettable shampoo musks, so I wanted to ask, considering its success. I don't remember it that well. I thought Chloe Nomad was interesting. I really don't remember it well enough. I'm really, really sorry. Do you have any favorite budget fragrances under, say, where's the price thing gone? £70. Well, I'm recommending a few when we do the Christmas list in a few minutes. But for £70, you can get a few interesting things. I mean, probably a nice quality cologne you could get. Are any of the Issey Miyakis, like Le Sel, available for under £70? I'd have to give that one some thought. Who's this? Bellamindlaby says, hi, Persolaise from France. Hello. In my little perfume experience, I feel like it's really difficult to have beautiful raw materials and longevity. What are your thoughts? Well, just look around and follow your nose. Your viewers have the best questions, says Rachel. I know. Talk about keeping me on my toes. I recently watched 3 Colors Red, says Grooming on the Grill, based on your recommendation. See, that's the power of Persolaise. Oh, that film. And I liked it, but didn't love it. I have a feeling I missed a lot of the subtext. What makes it great in your opinion? Oh, you can't ask me that. I've written a whole undergraduate dissertation on the 3 Colors. Look, I know for a lot of people it is not the greatest film of all time. For me, it is. If something touches you and makes you want to elevate to the level of greatness, that is usually a very, very, very personal thing, right? Citizen Kane, so often considered one of the greatest films of all time. I can kind of see why, but it's not a film that I've personally ever wanted to go back to. I think for me, what does it with 3 Colors Red, it's really, really trying to grapple with this idea of just trying to be good, trying to be really, really good in the world, with all of the flaws and the difficulties and the pain and the angst that the world throws at you, and all of those things that might cause you to become jaded and a little bit cynical and a bit bitter, like the character of the judge in the film. The kind of through line in the film is like you have to keep trying to transmit goodness and togetherness and fraternity, because I don't know if you're aware, but each of the Three Colors films is based on a different ideal of the French Revolution. So blue is liberty, white is equality, red is fraternity. And it's basically one of the most knowing, one of the most mature, one of the wisest films I have ever seen on this idea of why can't we all just get on? Why can't we all just get on with each other? But in a very, very Hollywoody, I was going to say non-sentimental way. You could read the ending of it as being a touch sentimental, but by the time you've watched all three films, I think you can allow the director to have his slightly, I mean, it's certainly not sickly sentimental, but his slightly sentimental touch. I think it's gorgeous, and I would really recommend the people watch it. Hey Noah says, Avignon is set to be discontinued. Oh, please don't say that. Honestly, is that true? I can't cope with that if that is true. We need to round things up, folks. Let's take a few more questions. Perfume says, that was an unsatisfying answer. I will rephrase. What would a good perfume pilgrimage look like to you? Oh, is this grass? A good perfume pilgrimage? Paris? Dubai? London? If you're talking about smelling perfumes. That sort of thing. Go to those sorts of destinations. Muhammad Ali Road in Mumbai. There you go. That's an interesting one for you. Slightly odd question, says Ricardo, but after 600 episodes of the series, do you ever get recognized out in real life? YouTube is a strange space in terms of creating these oddly parasocial relationships. Yes, it's happened in Sri Lanka, which was amazing. It's happened in Poland. It's happened a lot in London. So yes, that is why I always try to be on my best behavior. But by the way, if you do see me out and about, and if there is a bit of you that's thinking, should I say hello? Absolutely, say hello. It's really, really brilliant. The exchanges and the interactions I've had with people have been brilliant, and it's so amazing for me to put a face to all of these sort of faceless people who watch me. So yes, it has happened, and people have always been very nice, which is very, very touching. Annie says, a new student from Lahore just enrolled a few weeks ago, and when I mentioned reading The Book of Everlasting Things, which is set in Lahore, and the love between a perfumer and a calligrapher, she asked what perfume is. The question startled and humbled me. Is it possible that a 16-year-old would not know what perfume is? I don't know. In Lahore? I mean, if we're being stereotypical, Pakistani people love perfume, right? So I don't know. I think maybe you need to ask where the 16-year-old has been spending her life. Extalia says, no need to answer. We all know it's Gavin. Who's Gavin? I don't know. Who's your favorite child subscriber? I don't have favorites. What's your favorite Asian film? Okay, what counts as an Asian film? Is In the Mood for Love an Asian film? Because I love... And do you mean Bollywood? Because I don't know Bollywood films, but if you're talking Asian film, In the Mood for Love. Amazing film. Okay, we will do one more question. Villanelle, what's your take on the niche self-taught perfumers who emphasize a lot on the material rather than perfumery, like Ensarud and Arij Ladore? I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, we are still very, very much in that vein of perfumes foregrounding and showcasing single ingredients. I don't have an issue with it. You can make a good perfume that does that kind of thing, and you can also make a bad perfume, and vice versa. You can make a good perfume that is a bit more abstract and a bad perfume that's a bit more abstract. So I don't mind. I don't mind. Okay. Oh, Rachel, thoughts on Clara and the Sun? I enjoyed it, but not one of my favorite Ishiguros. So there we are. Okay, folks, thank you very, very, very much indeed, not just for today, but for all of the support. I'm going to have to revisit the tech because it's really not very, very helpful that the comments didn't come up in the way that they should have. But we will be back in a few minutes with our annual Christmas gift recommendations list. So until then, huge thanks. Thanks for helping me get to episode 600. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Do consider subscribing to the channel. And in the video description, you'll see lots of bits and bobs about how you can support my work if you would like to, etc., etc. Thank you very much indeed. See you in a bit. Bye now.